Hey there everyone, what's up? Back today with some more impressions on Soul Sacrifice. And I know Soul Sacrifice just came out in North America, and I hope you guys are playing it. I hope you bought it, and I hope you're enjoying it because it's a really good game. But what I'm going to be talking about today are the first three DLCs that have come out for Soul Sacrifice. And I'll preface this by saying I have no idea if this content is in the US release now. So I don't know if they're going to release it later as DLC or if these first three, which have already come out, are already on the disc. I don't know. So this might be content that I just didn't talk about last time, or it might be upcoming DLC for the US version also. I honestly don't know, but I'm just prefacing it with that because you're gonna be like, if it is in the North American version, you're guys are gonna be like, this isn't the normal game, it's not DLC. But in my case, I have the Japanese version. This is DLC. It's been free every month. They've been releasing one DLC, so we have three DLCs to talk about. And basically, the setup for the DLCs have been usually two new monsters, and then sometimes one free kind of. I don't know what forbidden arts. I guess they are maybe forbidden techniques. The big things that will break. You can only use them once in the round. I don't know what they're called in English, but I'm going to call them forbidden techniques because that's essentially what the Japanese is. But anyway, what I want to talk about today is the DLC. So we're going to talk about the first one first because it's first. So the first DLC has two monsters, Durahan and Behemoth, and those two are new. So Durahan is a headless knight. He's headless. I say headless because his head is not on his body. He's holding his head in his hand. It's on a chain. And Behemoth is a living. It's like a giant apple tree. And previously, I've cleared the entire game. I've put in probably over 130 hours, probably 140 or so now at this point. I haven't checked my playtime, but Durahan and Behemoth are actually quite different from the standard set of monsters in the game in that they're a little bit more difficult and they do things the other monsters don't do in that they actively kind of work against the ways that you would be fighting the monsters normally. I think they made these monsters specifically to counteract the way people were playing mainly in the game, which is interesting. So, for example, Durahan. There are some new stages also. Durahan stage is inside the stomach of a giant, I believe. It's inside a monster or a giant's stomach. So the stage itself hurts you. The lower level one doesn't hurt you normally. Just acid will bubble up sometimes and it'll hurt you. But the high level one, it's constantly hurting you no matter what. So the monster is difficult and the stage is like making it extra difficult because you constantly have to keep track of your health because it's constantly going down. So it makes like a very difficult battle. I think out of all the DLC, the level I believe 9 or 10 ranked Durahan is probably the hardest battle. But he has a thing where he can throw his head and he has a bunch of like fire attacks that kind of blow up everywhere, which makes it quite difficult. You can't like lock him and stun lock him in ways that you can other monsters because he breaks out, and it makes it difficult. And we have Behemoth also is different in another way. It's the tree monster. I believe it's poison based, and the thing is with that is that you can lock Behemoth into a stun lock with fire attacks, but when you follow up attack for the higher damage, it actually works against you in that after he gets knocked over, the apples will fly off the tree and they'll jump around the stage trying to attack you. So it actually makes it more difficult if you do your standard battle techniques of trapping and locking and follow up attacks. So it's pretty interesting. Those two I thought were really good for the first DLC, and the stages were interesting. And overall, it's pretty good start. There also is a forbidden technique that gets added. Um, Berserk, I believe it is. It actually it's pretty awesome. Like your head grows really big, and you have this kind of vortex of psychic energy that sucks everything in. So you can kind of pin monsters up against you while your partners will attack him. And that one is really quite useful. I use that a lot online. It's probably one of my favorite ones. So that was the first DLC. But the second DLC was something else that was two new monsters. The dwarf. Uh, the dwarf is like a totem pole almost, uh, except it kind of runs around in a whirlwind when it goes fast, so it makes things difficult. I want to say that for these DLC bosses, shields are really helpful for most of them. Shields and fists, things like that, those things really are effective when they're generally not as effective against a lot of the normal bosses. For the DLC bosses, you really have to think about kind of techniques to fight them, which is cool. But the dwarf is like a totem pole, and it kind of has a berserker attack, and it runs around. And when you stun and lock it, it will split into three parts, which could be kind of hard to handle at points. So it's pretty interesting. It gives a little bit of a different feel than all the other monsters. It's not a clone of a different type, which is interesting. And then we have also the ogre, and the ogre is I want to say uh, it's like he's a chef. In the story, he's a chef, so he's cooking, but he's like a clone of the Minotaur. Maybe might be getting that wrong. I think he's a clone of the Minotaur. Like his model is similar, and he has similar attacks. Except in this case, he has a wide area kind of fire attack that shoots up from the ground, which makes the battles really difficult in some points because he's very resistant. He like the Minotaur is he's hard to damage. He doesn't have the healing, but he does have a lot of different attacks that make him hard to get close to and hard to damage. So that one is kind of a slog. It's not like it so much that it's incredibly difficult. It's just that it takes a long time, and it's not even the longest one. And I forgot to mention the first DLC. There's also like a couple extra missions. I mean, besides the two monsters, you have a Gemini fight with both of them, and then you'll have like a one level 10 version of a previous monster. So in the first DLC, you have a level 10 Jack-o'-lantern, which is really helpful because getting the plus souls and keys. I don't know what they are. I don't know what it is in English. I don't know what they're calling it at least. But the blue ones, but getting those off of the normal jack-o'-lanterns is hard. It just takes so many times. I think I fought the jack-o'-lantern 40 times and I never got a plus for any of the souls that I took. So when I started fighting the level 10 one, I got him pretty quickly. So it was pretty easy to get the kind of seals that I needed. And in the second DLC, the level 10 you get is the harpy, which also had a kind of similar problem with getting the +1. It was just harder because there wasn't really any high level harpies in the story. I think there might have been a level 7 or 8 harpy though. Maybe I'm wrong. But the level 10 one is the easiest one to get the plus souls and whatever the blue one is called in English. It's key in Japanese. I don't know what it is in English. But that's the second DLC. And the third DLC is the one that came out yesterday. And I played through it all yesterday, and I've cleared out all the battles. And you have two new monsters, Ouroboros and Ghost. And these ones were really interesting. I really liked these ones. Probably out of all of the new monsters so far, I liked these ones the most. Not because they're difficult. They're not as difficult as the others. Durahan, I think, is probably still the most difficult. But Ouroboros is it's like a giant face inside of a snake eating its tail, basically, and it rolls around the stage like a wheel. I found that one it shoots lightning out of its mouth sometimes and has wide area of range attacks, and and can make itself really thin because it's like a wheel. So sometimes it's really hard to hit if it's moving quickly, which makes it you have to prepare for it differently than you would other things. A shield is really good against this one, and those fist weapons that come up from the ground are pretty much break the monster. Like, you can lock it into an area with those fists and just pound it until it's dead, basically. So it's not the most difficult monster. It looks pretty cool though, and you can, it's a fun battle. The ghost battle, on the other hand, is long, and it's more difficult than. It's one of the more difficult ones because the ghost has a lot of area attacks, but also it has a darkness attack where it can make your screen go dark, and it has invisibility, limited invisibility, I guess. So you won't be able to see it in your normal mode if you go into the again, I don't know what the English is, but it's like the third eye mode, I guess. If you go into that by pressing down on the pad, you can see where the ghost is and attack it even though it's invisible. So it's a lot of that is just running around, running away from the areas of effect and trying to find the ghost, because it moves quickly and kind of swoops around the stage when it's invisible. So it's sometimes you can find it, but you won't be able to get to it because you have to switch out of the third eye vision to actually attack it, and it'll have moved. So a lot of the time it just seemingly took a long time for me. I'd always get the highest rank, so I think it's programmed to be a long battle, but it's still the thing where it feels longer than it should. And it's not. It's the ghost. I want to say it's like a reskin of the Valkyrie, but it's not exactly. It's a little bit different. I mean, it looks quite different, but the way it moves around the stage is pretty similar. And there is, for the level 10 monster you get from the previous one, is the Valkyrie, which only shows up once or twice in the other parts of the game. So it's actually really helpful if you were searching for the plus and the double plus souls and keys for the Valkyrie. But yeah, that's basically my, I guess, overview of the DLC. I really enjoy these DLCs. They're all free, which is cool. Oh, I forgot to mention, there's also another Forbidden Art that came out yesterday called Angel, and it's pretty similar to Salamander in that you kind of blow up you grow lots of wings and fly above the stage, and you'll shoot out an energy, but instead of like doing full damage, it does damage to the enemy and heals everybody else in the area, which is really helpful for online matches if you're getting hurt a lot. So it'll knock the enemy down and heal everybody. So that's a pretty good one. I still think Berserk is the most interesting one, or most useful for me at least, though, out of the new ones. There's only 2 new ones, not 3, but out of those, Berserk, that's the way to go, in my opinion at least. So yeah, that's about it. These DLCs, like I said, they might be part of the full game in North America. If not, they'll probably released for free, which I think most of the DLC is free for this game, and they're releasing it every month. So maybe next month the DLC will start in the North America as well. So that was it, my first impressions and a look at the first 3 DLC for Soul Sacrifice, and I guess I'll come back and talk about more of them when they're released. So until then, I'll see you guys next time.